Before the cameras showed up, before the laugh track, before the network notes, before the executives decided what black college life was allowed to look like, someone already knew what was at stake. Not entertainment, infrastructure. 1987, NBC owns Thursday night. The Cosby Show is the most watched program on American television, #1, for consecutive seasons. The network wants a piece of that energy, wants to follow the Huxtable children to college, wants a spin-off. What the network wants is a safe replication. What it gets, eventually, is something it never authorized. The first season of A Different World follows Lisa Bonet's character to the fictional Hillman College, a historically black university somewhere in Virginia. The writing is pleasant, the comedy is competent, the ratings are acceptable, and the network is satisfied. They should have paid closer attention to who they hired to fix it. 1988, Howard University alumna Debbie Allen takes over as executive producer. What she does next is not described in the network's production agreement. She does not ask permission. She does not send a memo. She rebuilds the show from the architecture outward. The structural reading of this moment is not about television. It is about what an institution is willing to carry when no one is watching the budget line called culture. Allen brings in step shows, the rhythmic, precision movement tradition of black Greek letter organizations, invisible on network television until this moment. She commissions Aretha Franklin. She opens story arcs on colorism within black communities, a conversation American broadcast television had never hosted. She writes an episode on date rape. Network censors flag it as unacceptable. She pushes it through. The episode airs. She writes Gulf War deployment into a comedy. She writes apartheid divestment into a Friday night primetime sitcom on NBC. She writes the LA riots into the season finale, events that happened during production. What the record reveals is a systematic act of institutional expansion disguised as entertainment. Every episode Allen produced was a negotiation over what black life was allowed to mean on the largest broadcast platform in the country. This is not coincidence. It is mechanism. The woman who controlled the writer's room controlled the argument. The executives saw ratings. They saw demographics. They saw Thursday night leverage. They saw a show performing consistently enough to justify its production costs. They did not see the pipeline. Between 1987 and 1993, something happened in the data that no one at 30 Rockefeller Plaza was watching. Applications to historically black colleges and universities began to move. Not gradually, sharply. High school students across the country, many of whom had no prior model for what black higher education looked like, were seeing it in weekly 22-minute installments on NBC's Thursday night lineup. They were seeing black students studying engineering, chemistry, political science. They were seeing black professors as intellectual authorities. They were seeing the social architecture of HBCU life, the step shows, the homecoming traditions, the mentorship structures, the ambition, rendered as normal, aspirational, achievable. Debbie Allen did not create a show about black college. She created a model of black college that young people across the country used as a decision-making framework. This is the exact mechanism we witnessed with Granville Woods in episode 14. Infrastructure is not always steel and wire. Sometimes, it is a 30-minute narrative window broadcast into 40 million living rooms every Thursday night. What the network was selling was advertising time. What Debbie Allen was building was a recruitment pipeline for black higher education. The executives were watching the ratings. She was watching the enrollment. Here is what the ledger says. According to data from the National Center for Education Statistics, HBCU enrollment surged 24.3% during the show's run, from 1987 to 1993. Total U.S. higher education enrollment during that same period grew at 16.8%. A Different World outperformed the national higher education growth rate by more than 44%. Read that again. A sitcom, on a corporate broadcast network, produced without a dedicated education mandate, without federal funding, without institutional designation as anything other than an entertainment product, outperformed the national growth rate for higher education enrollment by 44%. After the show's 1993 cancellation, HBCU enrollment growth collapsed to 9.2%. The structural reading of this data is not that A Different World was popular. It is that media is infrastructure. It is that what young people see modeled on screen determines, in measurable ways, what young people understand as possible for themselves. Debbie Allen did not have a budget for recruitment. She had a writer's room and a network slot. She used both as institutional infrastructure for 6 seasons and 144 episodes. This is not analysis of a television show. This is accounting. The human capital produced by Hillman College, the fictional HBCU, is not fictional. The engineers, physicians, lawyers, educators, and business leaders who applied to real HBCUs because they saw the model on screen are not fictional. The professional class that Hillman seeded is real. It is walking around, and it was built inside a comedy budget on Thursday night. For a brief window, 6 seasons, 144 episodes, 6 years of Thursday nights, the pipeline held. Enrollment climbed. The professional class grew. An entire generation pointed to a fictional campus and said, "That is where I am going." 1993, the network cancels A Different World. The cancellation is not unusual. Networks cancel shows. Contracts expire. Formats evolve. The explanation is clean, administrative, unremarkable. What is not unremarkable is what the data shows in the years that follow. The pipeline that Debbie Allen built did not transfer to another program. There was no successor. No network replaced the model. The representation of HBCU academic and social life that had been running weekly for 6 years simply stopped. And the enrollment numbers tracked the loss. This is the argument that BGF has been building since episode 1. The suppression of black institutional achievement is not always violent. It is not always explicit. Sometimes it is an administrative decision in a boardroom that has no idea what it is dismantling. Sometimes, the pipeline closes because the format is no longer commercially convenient, and the loss is registered not in headlines, but in enrollment data, in application rates, in the quiet contraction of a professional class that never fully forms. The network did not know it was canceling an HBCU recruitment system, but the data does not care what the network knew. 6 seasons, 144 episodes. One Howard University alumna who hijacked a corporate spin-off and used it as infrastructure, without a mandate, without authorization, without anyone at 30 Rock fully understanding what she was doing until it was already done. That is the record. That is what the record reveals. What Debbie Allen built inside A Different World was not a television show. And it grew because the model was visible, consistent, and dignified. What this episode adds to the channel's argument is a mechanism. Media is not a mirror of culture. It is a construction system for what the next generation believes is possible for itself. When that system carries vision, it produces human capital. When it is cancelled, or diluted, or replaced with something that asks less of the audience, the loss is not aesthetic. The loss is in the enrollment data. The pipeline closes. And the question that BGF places before the record is not, why was A Different World cancelled? The question is, what would the ledger show if it had not been? The Black Genius Files. The archive continues.